Hello and welcome back to Enlace After Dark. Again, joining you as always is me, Art, the editor here at Enlace. Joining me today, as always, is Terry.
Hi, this is Terry. Since he gave his title, I'm the scriptwriter and fellow interviewer, reporter. I also make a really good flower tortillas.
How was your week, Terry?
It's been really good, you know. I mean, just been here, working on my own projects, doing research for Enlace After Dark, and just keeping on.
Just
How
keeping
about
on,
you?
trekking on.
Exactly.
I'm moving.
Yeah.
I'm grooving. I'm school. Upset. I missed a few things, but
Oh.
it's what it is, with the Blackboard update and not getting proper notifications.
Yeah.
It's a very annoying.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about the new Blackboard update.
I kind of like the new look. It's nice, but the way I get my updates on missed dates or due dates is the annoying part. It, it sends me the updates at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah, it kind of does do that. I've been getting notified through certain things on my student email, which I do like that. So, I don't know.
I mean, I usually ignore the student email unless
You're
it's
not
something
supposed
important.
to.
Look, I've been a bit lazy on updating my passwords too, so name another student who isn't lazy about that stuff.
Okay, that's fair.
Exactly. Okay, so what do we got on today's topic, Terry?
Well, I thought, it was kind of similar to what we were discussing the other day about DC versus Marvel. We had a lot to say when it came to heroes as well as villains. So I thought now, because it's also more interesting, we discuss villains.
Villains.
Yes.
Oh, what you got on villains? What do we know about them?
Well, I mean, villains, as we know, they're basically the opposite of heroes. They just do a lot of bad stuff. They might have different reasons why they do the things that are morally bad. But, there's a variety of them, whether it's in movies, television, books, comics, what have you. There's always going to be, in whatever story, someone who's going to pretty much antagonize the main character of this whatever story is being told. And yeah, it's just up to the hero to see how they can put an end to their actions.
Right, and these concepts go as far back as human storytelling can go, right?
Yes.
We
pretty
see
much.
this in a lot of the Greek mythos, the Roman mythos as well, and so forth.
Yeah.
Stories like Hercules.
Yes. Actually, it wasn't like, I guess you could say, not exactly a villain, but I guess it's antagonist is like a better term for it. Like with Hercules, the story of him where he had to do like 12, I think it's 12. I'm probably remembering wrong.
I don't know. It's been a while for me since I've had anything with Greek to do with.
Yeah, but when you mention it, it's like different tasks. And it's like Hera, she's the antagonist of that. I think she's like the wife of Zeus. And
Yes.
well, yes. And she was basically aware how Zeus, he just loved to, go around with,
And have some fun on the mortal side.
yes.
We'll say that. We'll say that.
Yes. And I think Hercules, because he was basically, let's just say, an affair child, she just decided to punish him for it. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he completed all the tasks and challenges. But
Yes.
I think we're getting a little sidetracked here.
Yeah. That the Greek mythology could be for like another topic. like, for
Another
next time.
day.
Yes.
Oh, no. That's
Yes.
a lot of research.
But that'll be fun.
It will be kind of fun. But villains. What type of villains do we have?
Well, with villains, with this one, I had a lot of fun doing my research on. And there is a website, Masterclass, who did a lot of interesting articles when it came to villains. And I thought I could bring it up here because one especially talked about the different types of villains. Like they specified 8 villain archetypes. And I thought it would be interesting to go over each of them and point out examples of them. So first up on this list, I put the mastermind. And what they said was the mastermind is a diabolical genius who who has a plan to destroy the protagonist. They're a gifted schemer and an evil genius who tries to take the protagonist out mentally. So, do you know any good examples of that?
Lex Luthor.
Yes,
Lex
that was the
Luthor.
immediate
Yeah,
one.
Lex Luthor.
He is amazing. He's like a good example when it comes to that. Probably.
You could argue a Joker. I mean, there are many different types of Jokers, but
Depends on which Joker.
yes.
Like maybe Heath Ledger's in The Dark Knight. He could probably be like a good.
Oh no, I was talking about in comics. There's
Oh.
there's like 3 different Jokers. Right now there's currently one because they off the other 2, but he's also looking to probably replace them again. And so either way, in comics there's a bunch of Jokers.
Yeah, that's true. So probably Joker, but no, I think Lex Luthor is a really good example
yeah.
when it comes to the mastermind. He's very
Genius, billionaire.
he's the one who comes up with a weird,
Oh,
crazy plans.
Justin Hammer, Iron Man 2, was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Justin, he's not exactly anyone's favorite MCU villain, but yeah, I guess you could say he's a good mastermind.
Yeah, he was a genius. He figured out how to do the genetic mutation, and he also mentally went after Tony too.
There's also Obadiah Stane from the first Iron Man. He's kind of like Iron Man's mentor and stuff, and even though he wasn't exactly able to replicate the Iron Man suit, he kind of did his own, more or less.
Yeah, more or less by the end of it.
Yeah. So I think those are good examples. And then if you want to go older, there's also Hans Gruber from Die Hard. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I've never seen Die Hard. I don't even believe that Die Hard, and right now, staff, team, coming onto a title on me. Die Hard is not a Christmas film. I will die on this hill.
But you just said you
Please and
haven't
thank
seen
you.
it.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I know
Then you
everyone
can't
says
voice
it's a
an
Christmas
opinion
film.
about it. I'm just saying.
You know what? I've never seen it during Christmas time, so it can't be a Christmas film.
Okay.
And I will die on this hill.
You will die hard on this hill. Okay, well, Hans Gruber in this movie, it's actually played by Alan Rickman, before the Harry Potter days, and he is, he's kind of like a terrorist, like a domestic terrorist, and God, it's been a while since I've seen this movie, but yeah, they kind of take over the company where Bruce Willis's character's wife is like
Having the Christmas
Christmas party
or whatever.
Yeah, so it's weird. I need to rewatch it, but yeah, I think he would be a good example of a criminal mastermind for it. So yeah.
Oh, then like most of the villains in Criminal Minds as well.
It depends, because if you count
Some of them are psychotic.
yes,
You're
some
right.
of them are just pure psychotic, have weird things just going on, but some they are really smart,
Oh, yeah.
and they actually really do. So much so that there's multiple episodes with just one villain. Like, I didn't know you watched Criminal Minds, by the way.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've seen all the seasons on Netflix, maybe 3
Okay,
times
then
because
the-
I've been bored.
Okay,
Because
so
that's like up
then-
to season 12.
Okay, then one good example was that one villain they had who, kind of messed with Aaron Hotchner. Like,
Oh, Mr. Scratch.
was it Mr. Scratch?
Mr.
Like
Scratch with the gas stuff that made him do the hallucination stuff. Or are you talking about the other one in the towards the beginning of the series, the guy who I'm trying to be careful with my words.
Yes.
The guy who wore the ballistic mask and broke
Yeah.
into his apartment and stuff and nearly killed him then.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
And that killed his wife later in the series. That
yeah,
one? Yeah.
I think he'd be
yeah.
a good. He's definitely a good villain for that one, and
Yep.
a good mastermind too, because he pretty much got
He
pretty much made so
orchestrated
many
everything.
tours.
Everything from the route that the police would take to escort him from prison, how to get out of the prison, and so forth.
Yes, so he's a good example.
But what other archetypes do we have?
Okay, well, we also have the second one, the anti-villain. The anti-villain is a character who has a sympathetic or just simply an appealing personality. It's similar to an anti-hero who's more of a good guy with bad tendencies. The anti-villain may have justifiable reasons for their actions. So,
I almost want to say Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Yeah, definitely. No, he's a good one. Even though, yeah, he's very funny.
He's a little more goofier.
Yeah, he's a goofy villain, but he definitely does. I just.
Maybe early comic renditions of Namor, because Namor has oftentimes been a villain for some of the Marvel heroes in comics, but has also teamed up to be a hero as well in other instances. So maybe more of an anti-hero, but in this case, I do believe he started off as a villain.
I was going to say Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely a bad guy. We already know that. A bit of a bully throughout most of the Harry Potter franchise. But he's mostly doing it because he's afraid of Voldemort. And even Voldemort has threatened to kill him and also his whole family. So, and also with his upbringing too, like his parents are basically like against muggles, like a lot of pure blood people. So I would say he's like a good and anti-villain for sure. So.
Yeah, I could say that. Yeah.
Yep. Doofenshmirtz, that one made me laugh. I like learning about Namor because I watched the new Black Panther with him in it, and yeah, his background was really cool too.
Oh yeah, and the film is really good. It's definitely much more different than that in the comics, obviously, but that also has a that the whole politics of films and stuff, because the X-Men and mutants technically aren't in the MCU, even though Disney bought out Fox and all of that, and they're still technically Sony properties, so you can't really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
which is why we barely got the Scarlet Witch title.
With Black Panther, Killmonger's a good example too of the anti-villain, because even though he is bad and stuff, when he explains sort of his motives, you can kind of understand some of them. So I feel like he's another good example of it. Black Panther so far has had some really good villains, so keep it up.
It's a really good world.
Yes. Okay, for the third one, this one's going to be interesting. This is the Beast. The Beast is a type of villain that seeks to ruin
I thought the Beast was an X-Men hero.
Huh?
The Beast was an X-Men hero.
Oh my gosh. No, for this, when it comes to villain archetypes, he's a type of villain that seeks to ruin the main character's existence by terrorizing them. They're seen as a literal monster, and they're being found often in horror and science fiction genres. Like a good one would be Jaws, you know, in the movie Jaws.
Or the Beast from Split.
Oh, that's a
Quite
good
literally, yeah.
Yes, or the Xenomorphs from the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That would be another one.
The sharks in Sharknado.
No.
Maybe.
No. No. They're mindless.
Well, I mean, do they still terrorize the people?
Because of natural disasters.
That's
Global
true.
warming, I think. I don't remember.
Could you say that with the shark from Jaws too? I mean, like the people
No,
are
that
just
was a
part
difference. That it was not afflicted by global warming. The shark was hungry for human flesh.
Well, exactly. The humans were just part of the shark's territory. Like
Exactly.
Yeah,
So.
that's true.
Um,
Like it's
could you also say Gaston from Beauty and the Beast? Could you? Think about it. Could you?
I don't think so. I mean, he's a bit of a meathead for sure, but I wouldn't say he's a beast. I mean, if you want to go like a metaphorical,
I mean, metaphorically, yeah.
maybe. I guess you could say that. But no, I think with the Beast, it's more, they're in more creature feature movies or in, as we mentioned, science fiction. So maybe some aliens, which I'd mentioned Xenomorph, and then the Predator from the Predator movies, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly, these villains are more mindless more than anything, and they really more rely on instinct, I guess, which is with the shark from Jaws, like, they just saw these people, they're part of their territory, so of course the shark thought food and then just ate them.
Food.
Yes.
Glorious food.
Exactly. Those are the
I
more...
wish I remember that song a lot better sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe King Kong and Godzilla too. They're actual beasts. They're giant, like monsters.
When you watch the movies and stuff like that, King Kong and Godzilla seem to have more cognitive function, or at least understanding of what they do and why they do it. And so they're not necessarily beasts, maybe they're villains that they go against, like Ghidorah, Rodin, or those giant bugs from the first film. I don't
Oh.
remember. But
Okay, well, I wouldn't count King Kong then, because I have seen the movies, and
Yes.
he's not a villain, definitely not. He was taken out of his, environment, and now he was scared for the most part. And Kong Skull Island, well, people were part of his environment, and he was just trying to protect it. Godzilla, I'm not too familiar with it too much, so I can't say too much about Godzilla, but. Would he be like a villain?
no,
No?
maybe more of an anti-hero just because he still acts on some of his animal instincts. But he definitely does take more of an effort to be that sort of guardian and protector.
Gotcha. Okay, for the next one, we have the Machine, which is similar to the Beast, but it's.
I thought the machine was a comedian.
You're so, uh,
Have you seen that?
no.
You haven't seen the performance of the machine. Oh my god, it's so funny.
it's an actual comedian.
Yeah, it's an actual comedian.
Oh, God.
Well, no, it's the story from a comedian. I don't remember the comedian's name right now, but I remember it because this comedian when he was in college, he decided to take the second language course of Russian. And the professor then was like, look, I don't care what you do in this class. I will literally pass you. I just want this class to happen. So, like, please, just don't drop out, because he was planning on dropping out. Anyhow, long story short, they ended up taking a trip to Russia, I think still like semi-communist Russia at the time. And so, they had their Russian escorts and stuff like that. And so he had been practicing this whole like spiel of what he was going to say to the Russians in Russian, but by the time he went over there to talk to them, he forgot everything he said, or what he was going to say, other than calling himself the Machine. So then they were like, he's the Machine, and they went on a binge drinking nonsense the entire time that they were there, and so they only knew him as the Machine.
That sounds weird.
Anyway, I'm so sorry. The
It's
Machine. What is the Machine archetype?
It's similar to the Beast, but it's with its technological construct, bleh, it makes it more incapable of feeling or experiencing emotions. Good example would definitely be Ultron from Avengers: Age of Ultron. And stuff.
I wouldn't say from the films, because he does somewhat show signs of emotion, but he shows no compassion.
Yeah, so I think that kind of still counts with no
Yeah,
compassion.
I can see the argument. Never mind.
And then, well, probably not the sequels, but probably the Terminator from the very first Terminator. Because in that one, he literally is a killing machine sent to, dispose of Sarah
in
Connor.
most of the other Terminator films, there are like two types of machines. So there's the humanistic machines, like, in the later ones, we see Arnold be that machine with compassion, but there's still the like T-800s that are the metallurgic, like liquid metal robots.
Yeah, I think those
so the
would be
machines
better.
still do exist throughout Terminator, and then technically you got Skynet. So Skynet is constantly that machine archetype, and then you could almost argue Mechagodzilla, at least in the new Godzilla movies. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Robot Godzilla.
Did you not know about
I
Mechagodzilla?
knew about Mechagodzilla, but remember, I don't really know too much about the Godzilla lore.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know too much either. I mean, I just read up on it when it comes by.
What about the robots from iRobot? That old one with Will Smith in it? Probably.
Well, it wasn't the robots directly, because the robots themselves, they had emotion and compassion. It ended up being the affliction from the super AI computer that was like, hey, I'm going to convert all you robots. Because remember, he continued working with one of the human robots.
Yeah.
You know what else could count?
What?
The Megazords from Power Rangers,
Oh.
the original Power Ranger movie that Ivan Ooze used to fight the Power Rangers.
Oh, we're going really old school. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That could definitely be a good one. If we want to go the video game route, maybe the robots in Five Nights at Freddy, maybe? I don't know.
There's a lot of lore. We
I
could literally
know
do
there
a whole
is.
podcast episode on Five Nights at Freddy's.
We really
because
could.
the machines, or rather the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's, aren't just machines. They're technically the angry souls of all the children who have
Yeah.
died in that location there.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, this is gonna be a really weird episode to post.
Yeah, that's okay. Like that's a good one. I like this episode so far. Okay, like probably Five Nights at Freddy's. We got to remember that one. Too.
No, because they're vengeful spirits. They're I wouldn't say, because they're not machine technically.
Well, I don't know. Back to Ultron. Even though, yeah, he doesn't show any compassion really. I think he's a good example because of that. And if you saw the What If series too, he used like it was basically like if he
Oh, what if Ultron had
He
joined up with Vision or whatever?
yeah, like Vision actually ended up being, the body that he wanted, which I know that was like the original plan that he was going to do in Age of Ultron. And yeah, he just became like this pretty much killing machine.
Yeah.
So, which I think he's a really good example of that. And also Terminator that we mentioned, like it depending
Skynet.
on Skynet. And then okay, next up, this one should be interesting. I think
Let's see
we've
what
seen
joke
it.
I can make.
What?
Let's see what joke I can
Yeah,
make with
let's
this.
see. Bullies. Okay. Bullies serve as simple, straightforward opposition.
I got nothing on this one.
Okay. They serve as simple, straightforward oppositions to the protagonists. They are often marked by a background that explains their oppressive and mean tendencies, but sometimes they're simply meant to be mean in order to be perceived as that, just a bully. So probably a big one would be Biff from the Back to the Future.
Oh yeah, Biff.
He's definitely a big one.
Biff.
He's been
Man.
he's just been a bully, like even his ancestors, as we saw, like Mad Dog Tannen,
Oh yeah.
and then him in the future, and a descendant of his in 2015.
No, that was still him.
Was that still him?
Oh
No,
wait, no,
like
his, the grandson.
Yeah,
or
the
whatever.
grandson,
The grandson
yeah.
bullying Marty's own son and all
Exactly.
that.
So it's just a whole family of bullies.
That is just a whole family of bullies.
Exactly.
I was thinking of Ant Bully when you said bully.
Ant bully?
Ant Bully. I couldn't get the movie out of my head. I was like, no, the little kid is the protagonist. He learns to no longer be a bully because he was being bullied by the other bullies and all that jazz.
But there's still bullies.
But yeah,
in it.
there were bullies that drove him to be
Yes.
the ant bully.
Yeah,
But
I feel like this archetype, it's more, it was more popular back in the 80s,
Oh, yeah.
probably. Like, you see movies like Back to the Future and a bunch of other 80s movies that I can't name. I'm so sorry.
probably a lot of like high school based shows as well from back then.
Like Stranger Things. It had Billy Hargrove in it from season 2.
I still haven't seen Stranger
You
Things.
need to freaking see Stranger
No,
Things.
maybe.
Please. It does have some bullies in there. And if you saw season 4, there's some bullies there too who pick on the main character. I'm pretty sure you know who she is, 11. And she pretty much retaliates by, let's just say fighting back. And that sometimes happens with this kind of archetype. Like sometimes the bully will push the protagonist too far that they'll fight back too. And you're like, well, what did you expect?
Yeah,
You were bullying them
honestly.
this whole time. And also back to Draco Malfoy, he was a good bully archetype too as well. So he kind of fits both the categories. Okay, next.
Oh, then maybe Paul from the Pokemon series. Yeah, I
Paul?
could see Paul.
I was going
or
to say
even
Gary from Pokemon.
Well, Paul's slightly more newer. He came out with Gen 5 when they went to the Sinnoh region.
Oh.
Yeah, he had a similar vibe to Gary, but it wasn't exactly Gary. He was definitely more of the like tougher bully type sense.
Yeah. That's true.
But yeah, Gary could also work.
Yeah, Gary could work. I mean, he kind of used because he was like the grandson to Professor Oak, he kind of used that status to help him get, advance in the Pokemon training. And also, he just loved to brag to Ash that, he was basically, way better than he was.
Oh yeah, but now look who's the master Pokemon trainer, huh? Huh?
Is he now?
Yeah, Ash is now the new Pokemon master of
That's
the world.
awesome. He finally achieved his goals. That's
Yeah,
what
they're
he
doing
wanted.
a farewell season, and then they're giving the season off to a new character.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
That's
like
nice.
13 episodes this new season.
That's
It's been
nice.
coming out.
About freaking time, Ash. Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Evil Incarnate. Yes. He's a
Oh.
type of villain that personifies evil and doesn't provide much in the way of background or character development. They're like 100% evil. This is actually, I think, my favorite type of archetype.
Yeah,
Because I
'cause
think
this
this
is
is like the
definitely-
definition of a good villain.
Because
This
that's
character-
definitely just all like horror film villains, any of the demons from any of those horror films and so forth. This is your world.
Honestly, I think Joker, he's a good one. He basically is not sympathetic whatsoever. Not including, of course, the Joaquin Phoenix movie, but yeah, every time we see Joker, he's
Most
not.
Joker iterations.
Yes, and then of course, me being a horror fan, you have Michael Myers from Halloween. He pretty much offers like, he's scary.
Yeah.
And then you have
Annabelle?
Annabelle, I don't know, maybe. Or I was gonna go in a nerdier route. I was gonna say Sauron from Lord of the Rings, maybe.
Oh yeah, Sauron.
Like I don't know too much about Lord of the Rings. I've only seen the first one, but would you say that he's
Sauron is evil incarnate.
It's like nothing good about him.
There's nothing.
No. That's the one with he's the giant eye, right?
He's not the eye.
Okay.
Look, it's a lengthy discussion to explain.
Okay.
And then I'd have to go and bug another friend to get my accurate information.
Is it Trey?
No,
Okay.
Trey hasn't even seen a single Hobbit or Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Okay, more what I know. Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter, probably.
Voldemort? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Especially if you have read the books. Have you read the books?
I finished book 1 and probably a chapter of book 2.
Okay, if you read Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, it goes more into Voldemort's backstory, and how he was conceived is through a love potion. His mom was in love with this muggle man, and he basically never gave her the time of day. So the only way she could get him to marry her and fall in love and have a baby was through a love potion. And that's also one of the reasons why Voldemort doesn't get the concept of love, is because he was conceived through a love potion. And while that does offer some kind of character development and good background, he's still evil.
Yeah.
incarnate. He doesn't understand what love is and stuff. So,
Maybe the Emperor from Star Wars,
Oh,
Palpatine.
yeah, Palpatine, that's a good one too.
In a
he's-
lot of the Legends novels, I think after he was contacted by his master Plagueis, he actually ended up killing his entire family. Yeah, just to in
wow.
part prove his devotion to the dark side and to his new master. And so, you couldn't really trace him back to anyone technically.
Yeah, I think Palpatine's a really good one. Yeah, that's a good
And then what? He ended up convincing the Republic to essentially have a 3-year-long conflict with the Separatist Alliance, and then he ended up ruling the galaxy for like 20 years, had to deal with another civil war, ends up getting himself killed. Turns out he's not actually dead. He learned how to prolong his life, sort of, in a weird way, and was about to rule over the galaxy again by the end of the film series.
What about Ozai from Avatar: The Last Airbender? He's a good one. He basically has no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
Yeah, he has nothing.
Like
to
he
redeem himself.
literally like scarred his own son.
Oh yeah.
So-
Scarred his own son, forced his own wife to either kill his son or be forced into exile forever. And yeah, no, there's nothing really good about
No,
Ozai.
like I was gonna say he at least kind of has a decent relationship with Azula, but not
no,
really.
not even
Not
that.
even, barely.
Not even that. He acknowledged her only because she did exactly what he wanted her to do.
And we also how that turned out. So
Yeah.
Okay.
And even with his happy childhood background that we sort of learned about through the series, I mean, he still ended up becoming the Fire Lord that wants to destroy all the world for the most part.
So yeah, definitely a good one. Okay, next one we have the henchmen. Okay, they're villains that pretty much perform the dirty work for another character. It's usually another major bad character in the story. And they don't usually have the brains of the main villain.
Goldar.
Yeah, but they can still make up for it with their strength or any other qualities. I immediately thought of the hyenas from The Lion King.
Oh yeah, the hyenas.
They're-
Those are good ones.
They're definitely a good one.
Obviously, I was going further back the '90s route. There's Goldar from Power Rangers, the original Mighty Morphin, and then there's most of the villains from GI Joe.
Yeah.
And as we eventually learned, Cobra Commander himself is literally a henchman.
Would you say Boba Fett is one? Like in the original Star Wars ones, at least? Kind of.
That's a tough one to call.
I mean-
Because, he's doing it more so for the money and payment. So he's not necessarily trying to be this henchman,
He's more
this
bounty
anti-hero, or anti-villain. I would argue maybe anti-hero with how we see he turns out in the new Book of Boba Fett series and all that. He's trying to do, I guess, sort of some redeeming things, but he's not afraid to do the dirty work that needs to be done.
Okay, I guess that's a good one. I was just curious. There's also the flying monkeys from The Wizard of Oz. That's a really good one.
Yeah, that's another good one. Starscream. Starscream.
Kronk from Emperor's New Groove. He's a
Kronk.
great one.
Oh God.
See,
What
henchmen are,
else?
they're more, sometimes they're more entertaining than the actual villain.
Yeah, they can be.
Yes, I really like those. Okay, next, this is the last one. This one's interesting. This is the fanatic. Their their villainy is driven by an extreme ideology. They usually carry out their evil acts due to their religious or moral beliefs. So,
Doofenshmirtz. He wants to rule the entire tri-state area.
I just like it's just that specific area.
It is just that specific area.
I was gonna go back to Voldemort because he is planning on once he's trying to get rid of all Muggle-borns and just Muggles in general, and just
Yeah.
leave those who are just 100% magic. So yeah, that's some like very extreme ideology. That's a good one. And then, have you ever seen this old movie? It's called Seven.
Why does that sound so familiar? Is it the one with the little puppet? No, that's 9.
Yeah, Seven. It's a crime thriller. It has Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. The serial killer they're after, he bases his victims off of the 7 deadly sins.
I
So-
heard about this one.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like he's a good one, and I think some episodes of Criminal Minds had some too, where they did go after people, based off of like weird things they believe too.
Oh yeah, there were some religious ideology ones. I think there was the one that was like heavily influenced in the occult.
Yes.
And then there was that one with the father.
Which one? I mean, there's a lot of father ones.
No, no, the one that came from the Catholic Church. Was in the Washington D.C. area doing all the exorcisms to all the people from Emily's past. Did you see that one?
I don't think so. If I did, it was a
And then
long
they
time ago.
arrested him and extradited him because his exorcisms were actually killing these people.
It kind of makes me think. Just so you know, I haven't seen the show Supernatural. I have done research on it for
I've
other
been
work.
watching it.
Yes. There is one episode that I was doing research on. It's called The Reaper. I don't know if you've seen that
Yeah,
episode
I've seen
yet.
that already.
Okay, would you think, okay, for context, this villain, I think he's kind of like the Grim Reaper, where he kind of picks and chooses who gets a life and then who he can, get rid of. Or, he takes someone's life and then gives it to somebody else.
It's a lot more complicated than that. It was
Yeah.
the episode I'm thinking of. Essentially, the Winchester brothers stumble onto this town because Dean is severely injured and needs a miracle essentially to save his life. So they find out about this pastor who has been allegedly using divine right to provide miracles and healing people of their lives, right? Turns out that's not what's been going on. Now, this blind pastor has not been aware to any of what's been going on, but apparently his wife was utilizing dark magic to control and influence a Grim Reaper to steal the life force of other people to then give that life force and heal whoever's been selected.
Oh, okay. Would
Yeah.
you think that's kind of like they're a fanatic, maybe? They kind of base off their killing off of.
Well, the wife of the pastor only did that to save his life. And she only kept the bit going because the pastor continued to go on with his divine right and miracle performing and all that jazz. So I wouldn't say that was necessarily like any fanatical idea. It was a big lie that just turned into a mess.
Okay. Well, I did think of another good example. Have you seen the movie The Mist?
Yes.
Yes, I was gonna say Mrs. Carmody. Like, she's a really good example of it because not only is she very religious, but she even starts sacrificing people, let's say, to the beast, like everything that's going on outside the supermarket. Like, she does it only once, but even the protagonists in that movie, they're just like, we need to go because you just know she's gonna start doing more of this and everything. So I feel like she was like a really good example of that. And I just really like that movie. What?
No. No, I'm not going to say it.
Just say it.
Ivan Ooze.
I've
Ivan Ooze. He was a determined fanatic of
Yes.
destroying the Power Rangers, all
Okay.
because of the actions that Zordon did. The things he missed, Terry. The Spanish Inquisition, the Black Plague, the Brady Bunch reunion.
Why did I should have known you were gonna bring him up? Yeah, sure.
Well, he's my favorite villain after all.
And that's what I was actually gonna off because we already went through the archetypes.
So then, Terry, what is your favorite villain?
I know it's such a cliche. I do like the Joker. He's honestly, it depends on who also, of course, plays him. And he's just a really good villain because he's very unsympathetic. He's terrifying also.
Oh, yeah, he can be.
He can be. And even when you do add the sympathetic elements to him, he's still someone to fear because even though you do fear him, he's still seen as realistic. But honestly, that just makes him more terrifying because of how you relate to him. You're like, oh my God, can I end up turning into someone that evil or something like that? So definitely the Joker. And and if I'm gonna go the Game of Thrones route, even though I know people now have mixed feelings about it, I was gonna say Cersei Lannister. Well, later Cersei Lannister. Have you seen Game of Thrones?
I've never seen once a throne of games.
You do need to. She does. First few seasons, she's not, that really impressive or anything. Her dad more or less is, but later on, like, she even ends up blowing up a whole, church group, let's say, just because, they pretty much like disappointed her. Like, they were just supposed to be there to fix her problems, but because they ended up making her be part of their own agenda, she's like, nope, I have no use for you anymore. So bye. So she that was really impressive when it came to villains. And going back to what I said about sympathetic, do you think should villains be sympathetic, like people you feel sorry for or empathize with?
Oh, no, not at all. Because some villains just do need to be hated. Some villains you just do need to understand that they are just pure evil.
Yes.
I mean, I see this a lot in the Star Wars, or at least in Star Wars The Clone Wars, where characters such as Darth Maul, through watching the TV series, The Clone Wars, we learn, that he's got a much sadder backstory and that all of his actions and motivations haven't really been through his own decisions. They've all been imposed onto him, and he's been doing all these things, to make up for the different things, or not necessarily like to make up to Palpatine more so, to show him that, oh, I'm still worthy of potentially being your apprentice. Oh, look at all that I have done for you. And then, he just gets rejected by Palpatine in the series at least, and continues to be the world's angriest man, too angry to die.
Too angry to die.
And then later on in the series, we get the Clone Wars, the Umbara arc, where Anakin is pulled away from the 501st, and a new Jedi general takes over the company for the time being of the conflict. And as it turns out, he was actually more or less playing both sides. He was intentionally sending Republic forces into these traps and all these engagements that resulted in heavy and mass casualties. He even at one point forced the 501st and 212 to fight and each other. And they eventually found out and learned that they were fighting because, again, the clones view themselves and each other as brothers, that they were, killing off themselves, their own family, which, it was a whole ordeal. And then they finally had to arrest him. And, his only justification was, I want to be on the winning side, and I do not care for you clones because you're not real humans, because, clones were all, test tube babies, essentially, born from a laboratory.
Yeah.
So he had zero sympathy for any of the clones and for the actions that he did. And most of the fans today will still tell you that, they absolutely hate General Krell.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, I prefer, even though some of my favorite villains, they do have some sympathy towards them, like you do feel bad for them, but I prefer it when they're just like these evil people who really just have bad intentions, because I feel like that's the definition of a good villain. That's why earlier I said evil incarnate is my favorite archetype, and you see it a lot in horror movies, which I'm a big horror movie buff. You have Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason, even Chucky, who has even gone on to say in like some of his movies that he just it's an addiction to him. Killing is an addiction. Yeah. So yeah, those are I prefer it when they're not sympathetic, but I'm not saying I don't like it, but I prefer if like they're just people I fear than pity.
Oh yeah, I mean those are some of the better villains, but I still do love me my Ivan-Ooze.
Yes, he's so definitely someone you feel sorry for.
No, not even.
I know, I was being sarcastic.
Ivan-Ooze. Yes. Best character out there, best villain ever.
Yes.
Yes, I will die on this hill.
I'm sure.
Either that or I'll change sides and probably go for someone else, like Megatron.
Of course.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. All right. Well, we wish we could talk more about this, but we are unfortunately out of time. But
hey, that's my line.
Yeah, I know. I stole it because I'm a villain. That sounded terrible.
But as Terry said, that is all the time we've got for Enlace After Dark today. Thank you all for tuning in, listening, watching, however you view or listen to our podcast.
Yes.
We'll catch you all later. Bye.
Bye.